Hello and welcome to the 2020 Democratic primary between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. So before we get started, please go down below and subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when new videos come out. Tomorrow I will be live streaming the Iowa caucuses, so go check that out. And check out my last video on the Democratic primary election night with what I think will happen as of a month's worth of research and up to the most recent polls. So go check that out. So let's get started. So currently, Biden has a 3.7 lead over Bernie Sanders, but a lot of these other candidates will transfer votes to either one of the candidates. Warren voters will most likely go to Sanders, Bloomberg voters will most likely go to Biden, and so on. And predicted. This is a betting site for elections. Currently, it's showing Bernie Sanders winning with the most likely chance of winning. Red and lighter red states would most likely go to Sanders, and darker blue and lighter blue states more likely to go to Biden. I also have favorability up here. So Joe Biden has a spread of -2, favorability of 44, and unfavorable of 46. Bernie Sanders has a 43% favorability and a 48.7% unfavorable, or a -5.7 spread. Basically even, but Sanders is slightly less favorable than Biden. So we're going to start off in the Iowa caucuses. A new poll came out today showing Sanders with a +7, Biden only coming out with 15%. In an average spread, it's 3.7% lead, and I still do think Sanders will win pretty narrowly here, probably 53 to 46%. On to New Hampshire. I think this is New Hampshire. So average, Sanders has almost a 10-point lead here. That's a lot. Biden only getting 16.8 and Sanders getting 26.3% polling. I do definitely expect Sanders to pull out a win here in a 1-to-1 with Biden and himself. I think he'd get about 14 delegates to Biden's 10. So many tabs open, it's taking a little while. Sorry about that. I think the next state is South Carolina, which is most likely to go to Biden, but has been trending slightly away from him. Oh, that was weird, whatever. Oh, this is Nevada. So Biden has a 5.7 lead, but there hasn't been that many polling out recently, and Predicted is showing an almost overwhelmingly percent chance of Sanders winning, and I do believe Sanders would win there too in a 1-to-1 matchup with Biden. So now Sanders winning the first 3 states. I think this is South Carolina. Yeah, Biden has a 13.5 average lead in the latest poll, only a 5-point lead, and Steyer is surging here. Biden definitely would still win South Carolina, probably getting about 33 to 21 delegates. This is a very moderate Democratic establishment state that will probably go to Biden for sure. In California, Sanders has an average almost 5-point lead here. Biden has a 21% to Sanders about 26%. A lot of Warren support here would transfer to Sanders, and I still think he would win here. Probably getting about 55 to 45% win. On to Texas, another state that has been trending also to Sanders here. Latest polls polling at 26%. I think they did another poll before that where Biden was up 6, and I don't think they did any others. but it's showing trends towards Sanders, and a lot of those Warren voters will transfer over. It's showing a close-inning race in the odds. I do think Biden will still get the win, probably with about 55 to a 45% win in the amount of delegates. If you didn't know, to gain any delegates, you have to at least get 15% in the state for voting, and then you could get some delegates. If you get 14%, you can't get any delegates. But polling, you could be polling at like 12% and somehow get like 17% of the vote and still gain delegates. In Massachusetts, very progressive state. Warren leading there. This is a Rome state. I would expect that. And Sanders in third. But in the odds, it has shifted to Sanders in the last, I think, week now. And I would expect Sanders to win here, probably getting about 45% win here. On to the next state, Washington. Sanders up +5. This is a very progressive state. I'm surprised Biden is even in second place. I would expect Warren in second place actually here. This is a new poll out, and it's also showing an overwhelming chance for Sanders to win there, and I would believe he would win there. I would be very surprised if he didn't. I'd expect him to win about 52 delegates to Biden's 37. Sorry about that. In the next state, Pennsylvania, another state that's been trending towards Sanders. In the odds, it's almost even now, but there's also been like not that many polls that have come out recently. Warren and Sanders both pretty close in the polls there, as well as Biden is not that high. I think it'd be a pretty close state. I'd expect Biden to win here, probably about with a 53% to like a 47% of the delegates. On to Florida. This is definitely going to be a safe Biden state. I think it's also been pretty safe here in the odds. Yeah. So I'd expect him to win probably about 62% of the delegates to about 37% for Biden. But Sanders winning 38% about. On to Utah. Sanders +13 and Warren in second place. Biden all the way in third place with Bloomberg surprisingly in fourth. I would definitely expect Sanders to win the state. He did very well in the last primary here. I expect him to win about 19-10. In Missouri, this is the first poll out I've seen Bloomberg surprisingly in second, and Sanders all the way in, was that fifth place? I don't completely agree with this poll, but I do see Biden winning here probably with about 55 to a 45%. And I think predicted shows. Why is it not going? Oh, there. Pretty likely state for Biden, but I don't think it would go 25 points. In Wisconsin, Biden +3. I do not agree with this at all. Even predicted shows it going to Sanders by a pretty large amount. I just don't see Biden doing too well here. I think Sanders would win about 56% of the delegates to 44. It's a pretty progressive state. New Jersey, Biden +3. And predicted, it's showing Sanders narrowly winning this. I do think Biden would edge this one very closely out, probably winning it by about 3 delegates. And in the last state, New Mexico, Sanders +1, Yang polling surprisingly at 10% there, and Warren at 8%. I do think Sanders would win here, probably getting about 15 delegates to 14 for Biden. So now I've used up all the recent polling, and I have to make what I think would happen without any other polling remaining, because the rest of it's probably too old or there's not enough in any other state predicted I could use as a source too. We're going to start off in the Northeast, Maine. This is definitely going to Sanders, a very progressive state. Did very well in the last primary and probably would get about 14 of the delegates, and Biden getting 10. And Vermont, this is his home state. I think Sanders would do probably about 12 of the delegates. He'd get to 4 for Biden. Rhode Island, another very progressive state. I think in predicted it shows pretty safe win there. Yeah. I do see Sanders winning here, probably getting about 12 delegates to Biden getting 9. In Connecticut, very close race there, but I do see Biden also edging it out here, probably getting 25 to 24 delegates. In New York, it has been shifting towards Sanders, and I could agree with that in some way, but I think that it'll be very close, and I think that Biden would very, very edge this one out. I could see it either way, but I think Biden has a slightly higher chance of winning it. On to Delaware. This is Biden's home state. He would definitely win here by about probably getting about 11 delegates to 6 delegates for Sanders. Maryland, another very safe state for Biden, probably getting about 49 to 30 delegates. Which way are we going to go? Virginia. Virginia, pretty safe state for Biden. Very establishment moderate. Probably get about 58 to 41 delegates. North Carolina is the same, and what is it showing here? Yeah, pretty overwhelming chance for Biden winning. Probably would get about 70 to 40 delegates. In Georgia, it's going to be about the same. Yeah. Probably get about 65 to 35% of the delegates. We're going to finish off the South here. Tennessee, pretty safe to Biden, yeah. Probably win about 57% to 42%. Alabama, Biden would win probably 65 to 35% for Sanders. Mississippi, even more. I think it's about 66 to 33. Louisiana, probably about 62-38%. Arkansas, probably 60 to 61 to 39. And Oklahoma, this would go to Sanders. What does predicted say? Yeah, it's saying to go to Sanders too. Probably 56% of the delegates to 43%. So now, with the South out of the way, we'll set aside Kentucky, West Virginia, if you count that as the Midwest or the South. Some people do either way. Biden having a slight lead of 1,418 delegates to Sanders' 1,257. We're going to move into the Midwest now. West Virginia, this is definitely going to go to Sanders, and it's showing a pretty close race there, but I don't completely agree with that. I think that Sanders would probably win about 14 to 10 delegates. In Kentucky, it's showing pretty close race there as well, but I think Biden would win there, getting about 24 to 22 delegates. Ohio, this is definitely going to go to Biden, but it's going to be pretty close. I would say about 73 delegates to 63 delegates. Moving on to Michigan, pretty close race there, but I do expect Sanders winning there, probably getting about 66 to 59 delegates. In Indiana, another state I believe would go to Sanders, and in polling, there is no polling, but in betting, it's showing Sanders winning there as well. Pretty close, though. Probably would get about 37 to 33 delegates there. In Illinois, I do expect this one to go to Sanders, and it's showing in betting it also will. Probably about 82 to 73 delegates. In Minnesota, pretty safe state for Sanders. About 45 to 30 delegates. So now with the Midwest basically out of the way, set aside this area, if you call this the West or not, 1,720 delegates for Biden, 1,586 for Sanders. Oh, I forgot D.C. Definitely going to go to Biden, probably about 11 to 6 delegates. We'll go North Dakota. Pretty safe state for Sanders, and it's also showing pretty safe state there for him. Probably going to get about 9 to 5 delegates. South Dakota, I'm going to say this one's also going to go to Sanders. I could see it being a split, but I do expect it going to Sanders. Nebraska, surprisingly close betting. Another state I believe would go to Sanders, probably about 14 to 11 delegates. Kansas, pretty close race, but I think this one would also go to Sanders, probably with 18 to 15 delegates. Montana, safe. All these states here are very safe for Sanders. Probably would get about 10 to 6 delegates. Wyoming would be about 8 to 5. Colorado, 38 to 29. Idaho, 13 to 7. Oregon, this is a pretty safe state for Sanders as well. I think it's showing that and predicted too. Yeah. 33 to 19. Arizona, close race, but expected Biden win. Hawaii, Sanders win for sure, 14 to 8. Alaska, 9 to 5. So we're done with the states now, and we're going to move on to the territories next. But in the current race, 1,884 for Biden, 1,796 for Sanders. Puerto Rico, is there predicted for Puerto Rico? I don't think so. But I would think, actually, Democratic. Where's primary, caucus? See if it's on here, actually. I think it is. Here, Puerto Rico. Surprisingly, Sanders doing very well there. I think this just opened up. I could see Sanders actually winning there. He's been doing a lot better with Hispanic voters. U.S. Virgin Islands. Probably 4 to 2. All these are about the same besides Democrats abroad. Democrats abroad, I expect Sanders to win probably 8 to 5. So now there's not enough delegates to gain the nomination. So now it's going to have to move over to super delegates. I would expect Biden winning probably about 550 to 212. So that's like beforehand, very close, but super delegates are very in favor of the establishment candidates, very anti-progressive. So now Biden gaining the nomination against Bernie Sanders, but in a very, very close race here. Sanders sweeping the Midwest and West, but Biden sweeping the South and some of the Northeast. Thanks for watching. Please go down, subscribe, like the video, hit the notification bell again to get notified when new videos come out. Bye.